And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jones versus Chum. Step forward, please.
Daycare provider Lori Jones is suing her former client, customer service rep Nina Chum, for unpaid babysitting fees and for making false allegations to Child Protective Services.
Mrs. Jones, you run a daycare agency?
Yes, I do.
And you were contacted by the defendant who asked you if you would take care of her children.
Yes.
You did for a short period of time. During the last week, according to you, she gave you a check and then stopped payment on that check. She later removed her children from your care. You want that check, which was $90.
Yes.
And also, it is your claim that she maliciously contacted the State Department of Social Services, who licenses you, and reported that children in your care were being given substandard care. And you want to be compensated for that because it put you out of business for a while. The defendant says that you did, in fact, give her children substandard care, and she is counterclaiming for all the money she paid you for her children's care and for punitive damages.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Chum, how did you find Mrs. Jones?
Well, I was looking for daycare for my children.
How old are your children?
They were 5 years old at the time.
Twins?
Yes. And I had seen Lori at some of the daycare meetings that I'd been to when I was providing child care. So I knew of her.
Fine. And you needed somebody immediately. You brought the children over when?
This was in July, on July 12th.
And what financial arrangements did you make?
They were going to be there for part-time, so she was charging me for part-time for the 2 children at $90 a week.
And how many weeks were the children there?
They were there for about 4.5 weeks or so.
And how many weeks did you pay for?
For all of the time that we were there.
Well, the last check, what happened?
I gave her the check on the Monday. Tuesday afternoon, I came and picked the children up as usual, and she wasn't there. Her husband was there, and I went and I said, you know, where's Lori? And I was told that she had taken one of her children to a doctor. I said, okay, but the children, as soon as my children sat down in the car, they told me that, Mommy, you know, they were watching naked people on TV.
Did you ask the children to describe what they saw?
They just told me that there were naked people on TV, and to be honest with you, I was just so distraught, I didn't know what to think or what to do. I just drove home.
Did you question them any further?
I did ask if it was people on a beach, you know, what was it, you know, was it, because sometimes children may say that even people in underwear are naked, so I wanted to be sure, and they said no, they weren't wearing anything. And so that really bothered me, and I just contacted DCFS on the issue so that they could investigate further.
Okay, let's get to the 10th of August. Where were you?
I watched her kids up until about 3:15, and then I took my daughter to the doctor, and my husband watched her kids for me the last half hour.
Why didn't he take your children to the doctor?
I just wanted to, so I just left them with him.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yes, it was.
Is he a daycare provider?
No, he's not.
Then you made a mistake. You made a serious mistake. So the part of your lawsuit, quite frankly, that deals with punitive damages for reporting you to the state, I'm dismissing. If you have children in your charge and you've been licensed by the state, it is your obligation, absent an emergency, to take care of them. And you have absolutely no right to let your husband fill in. And this was a Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that right?
Right.
What was he doing home?
He had the day off. I don't remember exactly why he was off that day.
She told me he'd been laid off. So he'd been, most of the time when you go, he's around the house mowing or doing other things.
Was he working at that time?
I don't remember. He's been laid off on and off since August. He'd work a couple weeks and they'd lay him off for a week, and then he'd work a month and they'd lay him off for 2 weeks. It's been that way since August.
Step up, sir. What were you watching on television, Mr. Jones?
Captain Ron. It's a comedy. I brought a copy.
Is there any nudity in that movie?
It just shows that, no, there ain't no nudity. It shows them in bikinis and bathing suits.
PG.
PG-13.
It's still not appropriate for children.
Yeah, it is.
Just
it's
a second.
comedy.
No, PG-13 is not appropriate for children. That means parental guidance, not to watch till you're 13. That's what PG-13 means, Mr. Jones. 5-year-olds watch G-rated movies, not PG-13, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a comedy to you. You think that these 5-year-olds understand the comedy?
Mine does.
Well, then they've been watching too many PG-13 movies. Well, I would be, Miss Jones, quite frankly, I would be pretty annoyed, too.
She told DCFS that they were watching X-rated porno.
I did not tell them that.
That's what he told me.
What I said was the children told me they were watching naked people. Children
That's
don't
porno.
know the difference.
Just a second. No.
Know the difference
No.
between
That's not pornography. That's watching naked people. What you did was, and I don't even know if that's what he was watching. So you made two mistakes. A, you made arrangements to take your daughter to the doctor at 3:15 in the afternoon while you still had work to do. It was not an emergency. B, if it was an emergency, then you let him take your daughter to the doctor and you stay home. And if the reason that you didn't let him take your daughter to the hospital was because you didn't trust his judgment.
No, that's not it at all.
Well, then there can be no other reason when you say, I wanted to, rather than let him take her when you had a job to do. The reason is either you didn't take your job seriously, or you didn't trust his judgment in relaying to the doctor whatever ailment your daughter had. And if you didn't trust his judgment with regard to doing that, you don't trust his judgment with leaving him alone with strange children when he's an unlicensed, unregulated, untrained provider. And he's been doing nothing but sitting around watching TV all day. So he's probably had it up to here with kids. Counterclaim seeks the return of all your money. So I'm going to give you an analogy of why you're not going to get all the money back. Okay. Let's say you've been going to a local restaurant for 2 years. One day you go there and you find a roach in your salad. And you say, I'm not paying for this meal. There was a roach in my salad, right? I would say you're absolutely right. You shouldn't have to pay for that meal. You say, not only don't I want to pay for that meal, I've been going there 2 years. I want all the money back that I spent in this restaurant over the last 2 years. Would you get it back?
No, I understand.
I think that you were absolutely right to contact the state. I think that her actions in leaving the children with an unlicensed provider is inappropriate. I'm not exactly sure what he was watching on television.
That's what
the best
concerns me.
scenario is he was watching a PG movie, and he shouldn't have been with 5-year-olds. So your claim is dismissed. Understood?
I do understand that. However, I was really, truly shocked, and it was offensive, I feel, to the children in her care, her own children, and to my children.
Then why don't you tell the judge why you got your daycare license stripped from you?
I didn't get my daycare license stripped.
Listen to me. It's not about her.
Okay, that's offensive.
Just it's not about her, though. It's about you. You did the wrong thing. And he did the wrong thing. She made a complaint, and she was justified in making her complaint. And if she was justified in making a complaint, it boggles my mind why you're suing her. That's all. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's just upset with every daycare provider because she got her own daycare license stripped from her.
Nobody took my license away from me.
They were not watching X-rated.
When they told me that, they were watching naked people on TV, I felt no.
I would not do that with kids.
I did my background check.
Shrek is rated PG.
Unfortunately, sometimes that isn't always going to be enough.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Joyce versus Morales. Step forward.
25-year-old wholesale account manager Marlena Joyce is suing her ex-roommate, 22-year-old mortgage assistant Rachel Morales, for unpaid rent and for damages she caused to their apartment. Rachel says she moved out because Marlena's boyfriend moved in.
Miss Joyce, you and a friend decided to move to San Diego, not this person, and you leased an apartment with this friend. Shortly after you leased the apartment in September, the friend decided to move home, leaving you with the apartment. You found the defendant, and she said she also needed a place to live. You agreed that she would move in practically immediately. Mm-hmm. On what date did your friend move home?
Did he move back?
Yes.
August. No exact date. I don't remember the date.
So in September, you had to come up with rent.
Mm-hmm.
And what date did Miss Morales move in?
First week of September?
September 7th, actually, due to the fact she had a house guest already there.
You moved in September 7th.
Mm-hmm. But she had all her stuff in before he moved.
That's why
before
I paid
he came
you
to
the rent
visit.
for it.
Shh, don't fight with each other.
Sorry.
You moved in September 7th, and you paid rent.
I gave her the check on September 1st because I had movers bring my belongings already.
How much did you give her?
$725 total.
And that was your agreement?
Mm-hmm.
And you moved out on October 7th.
My physical belongings, October 7th, yes. I stayed, after our argument, I left that night and never returned. But because my stuff was there, I felt I owed her those 2 days.
You left on October 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct? And she paid you for a month's rent on September 7th.
Mm-hmm.
No, ma'am.
Shh.
Sorry.
Listen to me. So far, you're losing. You have to listen. Listen. Open up your ears. Put on your listening ears, okay? The rent was $725. You gave her $725. You gave her $725. You moved in, according to you, on September 7th because she had a house guest. You moved out on October 7th. That's what you just told me.
Yes, ma'am.
So that I'm asking you, what do you want?
On October 1st, she paid rent. We got into an argument at work because she didn't want my boyfriend at the house, at her house.
Well, at the house that she was paying rent on, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you move out?
The reason when I first moved in, we decided no boys. And I gave her the 7 first days in September for the fact she had her boyfriend from Virginia visiting. And I'm like, that's rude of me to be the third wheel. We decided no boys. Like, that was the whole thing. No sports,
You mean
no
no
nothing.
boys sleeping over?
Sleeping over. And then she meets this guy 2 weeks later on a Saturday. His physical...
Slow down.
I'm
Slow
sorry.
down.
His physical...
Slow down.
She met him on a Saturday, and he moved in on Tuesday. Physically
That's not
moved
true.
in.
Shh, don't answer her.
The reason I know this is because every day on my lunch I go home, and he was there when she wasn't there. I would go home my lunch,
So
and he was there.
the boyfriend sort of moved in.
Yes, and I physically saw him moving his stuff in, doing laundry that day. And I'm like,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, was the argument that you had with her, Miss Joyce, over the boyfriend? That's what you said?
Yeah.
And she said to you, I don't want to share my house with...
And I told her, you haven't given me a penny for the deposit. Your name is not on the lease. Until I see anything for the deposit, this is not your house.
Okay.
You're staying...
All right, got it, Miss Joyce, I got it. Now, I'm asking you, Miss Joyce, she was there for a month. She paid you for a month. What are you suing her for?
She moved out without giving me a 30-day notice.
She doesn't have to give you a 30-day notice. You breached your agreement with her. She doesn't have to give you 30-day notice, period. You breached your agreement with her. Your agreement with her was that the two of you were going to be sharing this apartment together. You moved in a third party who was not paying rent.
No,
Next!
nobody moved in.
Next!
Nobody moved in.
Listen to me. Next. What are you suing her for?
Damages her dog did to my carpet.
Well, did you have a dog?
Yes, I did.
Did you have a dog?
Yeah, she's in dog care, though.
Just a second. You had a dog and she had a dog. So what you're talking about is some dog peeing on the carpet. Is that right? You have scientific proof to establish to my satisfaction, Miss Joyce, that it was her dog and not your dog?
We both know it was her dog.
Well, she doesn't know that.
I know. She knows. She would have me run inside before guys would come to the house to clean up her dog's poop. So when she brought the guy inside, the house would be clean. My dog stays in a cage, and he has his puppy pads.
Miss Joyce, grow up. It didn't work out. You did the wrong thing. You don't bring a third person into the house and say to your roommate, suck it up. You don't do that, because what you did was say, suck it up. You didn't pay your deposit, therefore, and you're not on the lease, so you can't tell me who to have in my house. She's already paid you $725 for the privilege of being able to say who she wants in her home. Do you understand that?
She never
Goodbye.
talked to me.
All excused. You may step out.
If she had a problem with my boyfriend staying at the house, she should have told me, which she never told me until we got into a little argument.
You can't meet someone on Saturday, move him in on Tuesday, and expect that to be okay with me.
She was jealous that I had a boyfriend.
He moved in, and she just wants to deny that.
And then she just didn't like it.
I'm never having a roommate again, at least a female one.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Troy versus Shaw. Step forward, please.
Retail salesperson Patricia Troy is suing her ex-boyfriend, retail assistant manager Charles Shaw Jr., for the return of money meant to secure an apartment. Patricia says Charles lied about wanting to live with her.
Miss Troy, the defendant is your former boyfriend, and according to your complaint, you gave him some money in order to save up some money to put down on an apartment for the two of you to share together. After you gave him the money, he decided he no longer wanted to be a couple, and you want your money back.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what the case is about.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw acknowledges that you gave him money, right?
Yeah.
But Mr. Shaw says that the money was a gift. You had given him money in the past. It had absolutely nothing to do with an apartment. And there was never an expectation that he would return that money to you should the relationship go south. So, how long have you known him?
Since September of 2002.
And I gather from your complaint that there was a time, Mr. Shaw, that you were incarcerated. Is that right?
Yes.
When was that?
From March of 2003 until April of 2004.
What were you incarcerated for?
A breaking and entering charge and...
Burglary?
Yeah.
I can understand burglary.
And...
Was this the first time you were...
management.
What?
I didn't go to anger control management.
Burglary and anger control management. So this emanated from a domestic violence situation?
Yeah, so basically it was just anger control management. That's the charge. I got violated.
Why didn't you go to anger control management?
I did go. I missed the last class, so I got violated.
And who was it that was the target of your anger?
A former ex-girlfriend.
You have a child with this ex-girlfriend?
No.
Did you learn your lesson?
Yeah.
Did you finish anger control management?
Yes.
Did you finish it in prison?
Yes.
See how they get you to do it? One way or another, you're going to go to that last class. Now, Miss Troy met you in September of 2002, so she enjoyed your company for several months, and then you went to jail. And I assume that Miss Troy stood by you when you were in jail. Is that right?
She came in on the tail end part.
On the tail end part of jail?
Yeah. She was writing in the beginning, then she stopped writing. Then around November of 2003, she started coming around.
You mean she started to come to visit you?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't go visit her. So she was visiting you.
Yeah.
How far a trip was it that she had to make to come to visit you?
Not far.
Give me an idea. What's not far?
Probably a mile.
1 mile? The jail was 1 mile from where she lived?
I assume it was.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Says her ex-boyfriend Charles Shaw Jr. owes for the return of money she gave him to secure an apartment. Charles says the money was a gift.
Now, where was the jail? What jail were you in?
Richmond City.
Richmond City? Was that a county jail?
City.
And you live in Richmond?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not such a far distance for you to come to visit?
It's not that far.
When you came to visit him, did you bring him money?
On occasions.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How much money did she bring you?
These are just some of the money slips that she did give me.
Can I see it, please? Who is this, by the way?
Oh, that's my father.
$20 on March 13th, $30 on March 27th, $30 on April 12th, $50 on January 22nd.
All that money she didn't bring me. My father gave her the money to bring to me.
Why didn't he come to bring it to you?
Because my father owns a furniture store, and she was working for him at the time. So during that time, he was at work. When she came to visit, she just brought the money down.
But it was not always his money, Your Honor.
Sometimes it was
that money
yours.
came out my pocket, and I also have some receipts.
Those are the same receipts.
Okay, I have receipts.
Different
Okay.
dates.
So sometimes his father gave you money to bring him, sometimes you brought the money yourself. Now, tell me about the money that you claim you gave him for the apartment, Miss Troy.
Okay.
He got out of jail.
Yeah, he came home in May.
Look at me when you're talking.
He came home. We were still dating, supposedly. It came to a point where he went out of town. Supposedly went to New York or whatever. We talked about our apartment. We had conversations about the apartment. I also have the letters where the conversation started when he was incarcerated. So when he came home, we talked furthermore about it, and we agreed that I would give him some money to save for the apartment. On the first occasion, I gave him $180 in cash. On the second occasion, he came to my home and picked up $200 in cash.
Well, what did he say when he picked up the $200 in cash?
I mean, he really didn't say anything. He just said he was going to put the money away. Okay, then he told me he found an apartment. He was approved for it. He told me he needed my information so he could put my name on the lease. Okay, we were supposed to move in the apartment August the 6th. The week before we were supposed to move in the apartment, that's when everything was broke off. I asked Mr. Shaw, would I be able to get my money back? He told me he was going to give me my money back. We made a verbal agreement that he would drop the money off at my mother's house. He never did. We bickered and argued for a day over the phone about the money, about this. I even contacted his probation officer to try to solve this. But, you know, nothing happened, so I felt like I had to sue him for it.
Well, you talked about getting this apartment, sir, for a long time while you were in jail.
I was thinking about getting an apartment, but when I came home, she didn't have herself together. First of all, she stopped working. My father had to let her go due to circumstances at the store. Then, in my eyes, she wasn't stable.
Well, why'd you take this $380 from her?
I mean, if somebody give you some money, you go... She asked me a couple of times, do you need any money? I'm like, I need some money. And then she asked me, do I need any shoes, anything? She was like, I buy them from you.
That is...
Shh. You want to say something?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. This goes back a little bit more than what's going on. Back in January, the job at the store was actually my son's job. I was holding it for him until he came back from jail. But he called me back in January. He said, Dad, Patricia and I, we're having a little problems. She's having problems staying where she lives now with the people. She have a lot of issues going on, and she can no longer stay there. So could you let her work my job that you have for me at the store so she can find an apartment for her and her 2 kids to stay? So I said, I really don't want to right now, but I'll do it for you. So she came to the store. This was in January, February, March, April. I told Miss Troy, when are you going to get an apartment for you and your kids? She's making the money. She never does it. I said, you're waiting for my son to get home. He's going to change. A lot is going to change about him. There's no guarantee he's going to even still want to be with you. You must worry about you and your 2 children.
Good advice.
So she had the money, plus she even got an income tax return. She did all that. She had plenty of money to get the apartment for her and the kids. This is about my son no longer wanted to be with her. Yes.
He acknowledges he took the $380 from her. His response to me when I said, why? He said to me, someone give you money, you take it, right?
And I asked him
the answer is, not if I wasn't interested.
No, she didn't give me $380. Like the story she's saying about that 180 and that 200, that's not true.
Well, how much did she give you, sir?
She gave me probably like $50 one time, $70 one time.
Your Honor.
I mean, she gave me money numerous of times. I figured they were gifts.
Do you understand, Mr. Shaw? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand you very well.
Okay. And so what I'm talking about your son's character.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not talking about her stupidity.
Yes.
I'm talking about his character.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm speaking. If she's got 2 children that she has to take care of, and she is not a wealthy person because she's working at a temporary job, she's got 2 kids that she's got to deal with, and I know she doesn't have a lot of money. Your son, who evidently said to you, according to you, would you give Patricia my job so that she can save up a little money?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What kind of character does he have to take money from her?
And I also told him about that.
Just... Yeah. I'm asking you, you're his father. Do you think that that demonstrates a person of good character?
No, it doesn't.
Perfect.
Yes.
Sit down.
Thank you.
Like it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $380. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I figure when a female gives you money, or anybody gives you money, and it's not in a contract or anything, you don't have to pay it back.
The reality of it all, it wasn't for him. It was for an apartment.
When I was coming home, she asked me, do I need any money to get on my feet or anything?
He needed this, he needed that.
She just mad at the simple fact that I didn't want to be with her anymore.
Obviously, he just didn't want to be with me.
Every time she gave me money, she wants me to come around.
He could have been a man enough to tell me.
I mean, she's a cool person.
I'd rather be single.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ortega versus Gutierrez. Step forward.
Computer technician Netza Ortega is suing his ex-girlfriend, 26-year-old customer service rep Maribel Gutierrez, for unpaid loans to get her hair done and for the return of a promise ring.
Ah, Mr. Ortega. The romance is over. You want your jewelry back, and you want some money that you loaned to the defendant while you were together.
That's correct.
Ms. Gutierrez says you often gave her money. There was never any mention of a payback, and the jewelry you want back were gifts that you made to her, and you're not entitled to them back.
I feel that it's entitled back to me because they were actually a symbol of a relationship.
All right, let's take the simple ones first. The loan. When do you claim, and what year did you make her the loan?
June of this year, and it was to get her hair done, and it was for $50.
What's next,
okay,
Mr. Ortega?
After that, it was another loan for $50 to get her hair done.
Get over it, Mr.
And then after that, it was another $40, and that was
to get her nails done?
No.
Manicure, pedicure.
No, that was actually
facial,
to get her
leg wax, whatever. Let's get to the jewelry.
Okay, the jewelry was given to her in April.
Did she go shopping with you for the jewelry?
No.
You went by yourself?
I went by myself.
And you went to a store and you picked out what kind of jewelry?
A promise ring. It was a butterfly made of diamonds.
And what else?
And then a month later, after I paid off the ring, I got her a matching pendant that went with it.
How much did you pay for all this?
About $325 total.
$325.
Yes.
So we're not exactly talking the Hope Diamond here.
No.
Is that right? Mr. Ortega?
Yes.
Is this your first girlfriend?
No, it's not.
How many girlfriends have you had?
I've had about 4.
Did you buy them gifts?
I bought them gifts.
And then you broke up with them?
Yes.
Did they give you back the gifts?
No, because I didn't ask them for those because there weren't actual agreements. The promise ring was an agreement that we would stay in a monogamous relationship. And now that it's over, I deserve that. I should get it back.
Judy, 1 second.
Miss Judy?
Just 1 second. Okay. When you gave her the ring, what did you say to her?
I said, this is a promise that we would stay in this relationship.
You made her a promise?
Yes.
That's nice.
and she agreed to take it.
Mr. Ortega.
Yes.
Grow up, sir.
Okay.
You're dying to say something.
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
We made a promise that he would stop drinking, doing drugs, and I accepted the gift if he would stop doing drugs and drinking. He did not. Accidentally, I don't know what happened to the gift. It got lost.
That's not true.
Listen to me. You were better off without opening your mouth.
Okay.
You were better off just standing there and looking gorgeous. Mr. Ortega.
Yes.
Get over it. Put a period. Move on.
Okay.
If you want a ring that comes back to you, you buy a diamond.
It was diamond.
Nice, listen to me. No, not a butterfly.
Diamonds.
Not a butterfly, Mr. Ortega. You buy a single diamond and you have it set in a very nice setting, and then you say, I want you to marry me.
I did.
Listen to me. I'm speaking.
At one point, though, I did.
I'm speaking.
Okay.
Will you marry me? This is an engagement ring.
We weren't
not
engaged.
A promise ring. I don't care if you were engaged or not. Listen, I've gotten engaged without a ring, too. Once or twice.
Okay.
A ring, the solitaire, Mr. Ortega, not a butterfly.
Actually, it was a princess cut.
Bye, Mr. Ortega.
He was using drugs.
I treated her well.
I have a 2-year-old son. I'm not going to deal with this.
Total lies. I totally respected her and her son.
Didn't want me to talk to my friends.
Not at all. I would let her go out and do her thing with her friends.
We used drugs and not remember anything he would tell me. He was always verbally abusive to me, and I'm not going to take that because I have a 2-year-old son, not from him. So, I mean, I'm not going to deal with
Bethany is suing her sister's former friend, warehouse worker Dennis Hicks, for throwing her through a glass table during a night of heavy drinking. Dennis claims Tanya started the fight and he is countersuing for a false arrest.
Yeah, this is case number 320 on the calendar in the matter of Gwathney versus Hicks. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Have a seat. You're welcome.
Ms. Gwathney, the defendant is a friend or was a friend of your sister's.
Correct.
According to what I read, you were visiting at his home.
Yes.
Your sister was there?
Yes.
And maybe some other people. According to you, Mr. Hicks, for no apparent reason, assaulted you, causing you some serious physical injury. He was, in fact, arrested for that assault and ultimately acquitted, found not guilty.
Yes.
So you are suing him civilly for the injuries that you sustained. Mr. Hicks says that you, in fact, instigated this fight. You hit him. You had been drinking. He is counterclaiming. He wants money for the cost of defending his criminal case, as well as damage to his door that he claims that you caused. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When had you gone over to Mr. Hicks's home?
October 24th, 2003.
What time?
Probably about 7, 8 o'clock.
In the evening?
Yes.
Who did you go over with?
With my daughter.
How old is your daughter?
She was 1 at the time.
And where was your sister?
She was catching a cab over there. She was on her way over with her 2 children.
What were you going to do at Mr. Hicks's home?
Just getting out of the house that I was staying in. We was going over there to kick it, have fun.
Had Mr. Hicks invited you to come over?
Yes, he did.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What happened when you got there, Miss Gwathney?
What happened when we got there, okay, we was sitting down. He went and got some beer. It was another girl there, and we was just, at the time, just talking, having fun. My sister came in. Her and the girl had left. I watched the kids while she was gone. All the time he was talking about this girl, how she was, just talking real bad about her.
You mean the girl that your sister was with?
Yes. So when they got back, my sister and her was in a room. And I went up in there and I asked the girl, did she want to move in with me? I told her she could pay me $25 a month and I let her stay with me. Okay, Mr. Hicks got upset.
Did you know her?
No, she was a friend of my sister's.
And you had never met her before?
No, I haven't.
So you went over to her, never having met her before that evening, and said to her, would you like to move in with me for $25 a month?
Yes, I did.
How old are you?
I'm 25 now.
Who else lives in your home besides your daughter?
Just us two, my daughter and myself.
Well, what did you know about this girl who you asked to move in with you?
I didn't know too much about her, but my sister knew her, and I figured that she needed some help at the time.
Okay, so you asked her if she wanted to move in with you for $25 a month.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Mr. Hicks got upset. He told us that we had to leave. He grabbed my daughter by her arm, pulled her out the room. I got up, I asked him, why did you touching my child? And he grabbed me by my neck, slammed me against the wall, and slammed me on top of the glass table.
And what happened to the glass table?
It broke, and my back, I missing skin off my back and had 7 stitches put in.
So that's how your back was injured, because the glass top table broke?
Yep.
Then what happened?
There's another guy that was there. He came in, he grabbed Dennis up off of me, and I ran out of the room, ran into the living room, grabbed his phone, called 911.
Grabbed whose phone?
Mr. Hicks' phone.
And the police came?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Hicks, let me hear your version of these events, sir.
Your Honor, Miss Adams, who is Miss Gaffney's sister, right there, she was already at my home with her 2 kids. Miss Gaffney called my home looking for her sister. She asked, was her sister there?
Does that sound right? Is that coming back to you now?
No, it's not true.
Okay, go ahead.
So therefore, I stated, yeah, your sister's here. So then she asked, could she come over? I told her no, because of a previous incident that had happened.
What was the previous incident?
What the previous incident was her and her sister were at my home one evening, and she was drinking and everything like that. She went into the bathroom. A half hour had elapsed, and me and her sister started getting worried. So we finally got the bathroom door open. She was sprawled out on the floor of the bathroom, and my pills, my medication, I'm an epileptic, were on the floor as well. Bottle open, pills sprawled out. We dragged her from the bathroom into my bedroom, put ice on her, you know, tried to smack her to get her to wake up and everything like that. Finally, she woke up. So I had that incident in my mind.
So you told her not to come over?
Right. But
does that sound like something that may have happened, Miss Adams?
I have something to say.
Miss Adams, listen to me very carefully.
Yes.
He's just described an incident where you had to go into his bathroom to retrieve your sister from the floor of his bathroom. Did that or did that not happen?
Yes, it happened.
Good. Now sit down.
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
After that, everyone kept saying, no, man, come on, let her come over, man. So finally, I gave in. So what happened then was she came over. Everyone had started drinking and everything like that. The lady walked in. I'm calling her the lady. Okay, it's the same one she offered the $25 to for the room.
Gotcha.
She came in, looked at Miss Gaffney and said, ooh, she got a nice fatty.
A nice what?
Fatty.
Fanny.
Fatty.
Fatty.
F-A-T-T-Y.
A nice fatty. What does that mean?
Backside.
Rear end. Okay.
And smacked her on her backside. Okay? Miss Gaffney smiled a little bit. So then the lady, Miss Adams, they went into the bathroom for about maybe 5 minutes. They left.
Miss Adams and the lady left?
Yes, they left.
Okay.
So therefore, it was just me, Miss Gaffney, Johnny, Lanier. Okay? She was drinking and she was talking about the lady and everything. So me and Johnny, who knew things about this lady, tried to tell her, do not mess with her. Don't get involved with her. You know, she's no good. She will steal from you. She will rob from you. She has a
bad news.
She has a disease, okay?
Bad news.
Exactly.
Got it.
She didn't want to listen, okay? She said, I'm grown. I'll make my own decisions, who I mess with, who I don't. So then I simply told Ms. Gaffney, I said, okay, if that's the way you want it, fine. As soon as they come back, y'all can leave. Just like that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Tanya Gaffney says her sister's former friend, Dennis Hicks, body slammed her on top of a glass table. Dennis says Tanya hit him in the head with a beer can.
Okay. All right.
So they came back.
You mean Miss Adams and the lady?
Right. Came back. And so they all went into the bedroom. So we're sitting outside and everything.
What did you think they were doing in the bedroom, Mr. Hicks?
I have no idea.
Okay. Go ahead.
You know, that would be speculating on my behalf. I can't do that. So we were all just sitting outside and everything like that, you know, in the living room.
Where was the little girl at the time?
In the bedroom with them. So then I went into the room. I said, excuse me. I said, y'all got to go, man. I said,
okay, you wanted them out.
I said, y'all got to go. So I left, went back and sat on the couch. About 10, 15 minutes went by, came back again. I was just totally done with it then. I said, yo, y'all gotta go or I'm gonna call the police. Miss Gaffney stood up. Her daughter was right next to her, was right near the door. So they were in the room smoking marijuana at that time, okay? And so I patted her daughter behind the neck. I did not grab her arm or anything. I patted her behind the neck and I said, hey, I said, you shouldn't be in here while they're doing that. The lady screamed out, girl, don't let him touch your daughter. What he touching your daughter for? She got upset. She came in my face, she started hollering, she started cursing, took a beer can, hit me right upside the right side of my head with it, and started hollering, get off my daughter, get off my daughter. So what I did was I put my head down, I wrapped my arms around her, and I pushed her up against the wall, okay? So she's still hollering and punching and screaming. At that time, the table was approximately about 1 foot from where we were. And she moved, she slipped, we both fell on the table.
But her back hit the table.
Yes, it
fell
did.
On top of her.
Yes, it did.
And that's how it happened.
Yes.
Okay.
At that time, my friend came, he lifted us off.
Excuse me.
She ran out. So then I came out, noticed that the cell phone was gone. So I figured she took it. So she was outside. So then about 15, 20 minutes later, I hear this bamming on my door. I'ma kill you. Bam, kicking, everything. So I'm looking through the peephole. Next thing I know, I see her with the phone in her hand. Bam! And she smashed the window. At that time, I just went back into the living room.
Got it.
So then the cops came. Oh.
Cops came, you were arrested. You had a jury trial?
It was not a jury trial.
You had a bench trial for
Yes,
a
Your
judge.
Honor. Yes.
Did you put on a case, Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Did you have any witnesses?
I had 4.
At the trial?
Yes.
You had 4 witnesses. Who
Yes.
testified at the trial?
No one.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is that?
Because she had no witnesses.
So she testified only at the trial?
Yes.
So you rested. After she testified, you rested.
Yes.
And the judge dismissed it?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Now I'll hear you.
He's lying about me trying to give him an uppercut, whatever, trying to hit him.
Is he lying about you smoking marijuana in the bedroom?
He's lying about that too.
I don't believe that.
I swear, he's lying. I admit I do smoke weed, but I didn't smoke weed. I ain't had no money that night.
What were you doing in the bedroom?
We was in a room talking.
What were you doing in the bedroom?
Talking.
When Mr. Hicks came in and told you to leave, why didn't you leave?
He came in there once and told us to leave.
I just said
And
to you,
we-
listen to me
Okay,
very
I'm sorry.
carefully. When Mr. Hicks came into the bedroom and told you to leave, why didn't you leave?
We was going to leave. We had 3 kids. We had my nephew was on the couch asleep. My niece was in the room with us, and my daughter was in the room with us.
And is what you're telling me that you or anybody else in the room wasn't smoking marijuana
No,
in there?
it wasn't.
I don't believe you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, now, he is lying about all that, Judge Judy, because he came in the room and he said he grabbed her daughter by her arm and was like, get out, you got to get out, like that, right? So he came in the room, they got to arguing because he grabbed her daughter. So they got to arguing, and he just took his hand and put it around my sister's neck like this, threw her against the wall like this, and threw it down on the table. And that's what happened. And I tried to help my sister, but I couldn't because he's strong. He's very strong, and I couldn't help my sister just because.
You should have left when he told you to leave.
Left? He only told.
Now listen to me. You should have left when he told you to leave.
I understand what you're saying, Judge.
Good. Now, so sit down. What else?
I have pictures.
Can I see them, please?
I have pictures too.
Sorry.
A picture of the table, and that's the window.
Miss Gaffney collapsed in your bathroom?
No.
When
it was the time prior to that.
Okay. So there was one time when she came in, she didn't collapse in the bathroom.
Correct.
So why were you so adamant about her not coming over?
Because I still remembered that one time.
But you had invited her over after that.
Yes, but it was still on my mind.
That doesn't make sense, Mr. Hicks.
Okay.
It would make sense to me if she had collapsed in the bathroom, which I believe she did.
Okay.
And I believe she probably opened up your pills, and your pills were hanging out there.
Okay.
And I can understand you saying, I don't want her to come back, because that I believe. I believe that happened. Do you understand?
Yes.
And where was your daughter when you collapsed in the bathroom?
Was she asleep? I think she probably was asleep at the time.
What makes you think that age 25 you can subject your daughter to that kind of behavior?
Well, see, at the time I was suffering. I suffered from depression and stuff.
You think that alcohol's going to make you feel better?
No, that's why I was getting help for it.
You were getting help? Were you getting medication? Taking medication?
I was getting help for it.
Do you believe you acted appropriately on the 24th of October?
Yes, because I didn't put my hands on him. I didn't touch him.
I asked you a question. Do you believe you acted appropriately on the 24th of October?
In the incident, yes, I do.
You were there, according to you, 7 or 8 o'clock, and you were drinking, and everybody else there was drinking. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that an appropriate situation for your daughter, who had already been involved in one drinking incident with you?
No, it's not.
So I'm going to ask you again. Do you think you acted appropriately that evening?
No.
Me neither. You got into an argument with him. You got into a fight, whether he pushed you, whether you were tussling around, whether you fell, told you to leave. You didn't leave. You probably...
He only asked me to leave once, Judge Judy.
So what?
And we was about to leave. He came in the room and he assaulted me.
I don't think he assaulted you. I don't think he assaulted you without provocation.
Can I show you something?
Sure. You can show me anything you like.
This is his arrest and booking sheet. At the top, he was violent with the officers. And my doctor's statement, I have pictures also.
I'm looking at the photographs of the injuries from the glass. Are there any other injuries that you want to show me that are depicted in these photographs, other than from the glass? The answer is either yes or no.
No, ma'am.
So you had no other injuries other than the cut from the glass, is that right?
Right.
And you told the police that he punched you? Where did he punch you? Where did he punch you?
I don't know.
And that he kicked you about the body. Where did he kick you?
I don't know.
That doesn't show up in any of the photographs.
I understand this.
There is no evidence on any of the photographs that you've shown me of any punching, any kicking, nothing. The only thing that there is evidence of is that you fell into a table and your back was cut.
I didn't fall.
Oh, yeah, you fell. He fell on top of you.
If he fell on top of me with his hands around me, he would have had cuts too. He didn't have no cuts, no injuries on him.
Listen to me. You have no case. You were an invited guest into his house. He told you to leave. He didn't like what was going on in the bedroom with you 3 girls with 3 little children in there. I don't believe that he assaulted your child, which is what you are suggesting, that he grabbed your child. I believe you got angry. I believe that you were a little looped, which you shouldn't do. And I don't know what kind of medication you're taking for depression, but if you're taking any medication for depression and you couple that with alcohol, that is not a good combination. You have a year-old child, and your responsibility is to take care of a year-old child, not to do stupid things like inviting a stranger to come and live with you for $25 a month. You have to start using your noodle if you have a child that you're supposed to be taking care of. Now, Mr. Hicks, to be honest with you, I am not impressed with your counterclaim against the plaintiff. Your counterclaim against the plaintiff wants damages as a result of her having you unlawfully arrested. And the truth of the matter is, she was injured. Her perception of it, no matter how drunk she might have been that evening or how high she might have been that evening, was that she was injured. And you were responsible. You should not have invited her over to your house, sir. She had already indicated to you on one occasion that she couldn't hold her alcohol. She was there with a child. According to you, 2 times previously, she had gotten into your pills in the bathroom. She collapsed. What do you need that for? Not smart, sir. The incident that occurred here was unfortunate. She was injured. She was critically injured. She had a couple of stitches in her back because the table broke. I don't know what evidence was produced before the judge at the trial, but certainly the judge was unimpressed with Miss Watney's story. I am too. I don't think it happened that way. I don't even think you remember what happened in any event. I'm dismissing your claim. And Mr. Hicks, think twice before you bring children into your house in circumstances where their parents can't control their alcohol. That's it, sir. Your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
I mean the $47 for the window.
That's it.
Excuse me. Step out.
He was lying about me smoking weed. I was not smoking weed that night.
She believed that they were doing it. I know they were doing it.
He was lying about how I tried to hit him and I didn't put my hands on him.
I don't believe that a little kid should be in a room where people are smoking marijuana.
It was wrong. It was a mistake. and I admit to it.
Why shouldn't I take my hand, you know, put it behind the kid and say, hey, you shouldn't be in here?
Judge Judy was right, you know, not put my daughter in the environment that I had her in.
I have closure because she's no longer in my life, and that makes me a winner regardless.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Farrell versus Monaco. Step forward, please.
Retired engineer Tom Farrell is suing his daughter's former guardian, property manager Victoria Monaco, for the return of money given towards child care expenses. Victoria is countersuing for unpaid rent and additional expenses.
Mr. and Mrs. Farrell, I assume this is your daughter. Tell me your first name.
Marcy.
Marcy. Stand up next to your folks. Marcy, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
How old are you?
15.
Well, Marcy was going through a difficult teenage period. And according to your complaint, after several failed attempts at other arrangements, you found the defendant who indicated she was prepared to let Marcy live with her. The arrangement was that she would be paid $50 a week. You advanced her $1,000. Marcy stayed how many weeks?
I stayed about 2 weeks before I went to a residence.
To a residence?
Residential. It's a part of my program.
Stayed 2 weeks, and you want the rest of your money back. That's what the case is about.
Yeah.
Ms. Monaco says that, yes, you advanced her the $1,000, but during the time that your daughter was with her for that 2-week period, she spent a heck of a lot more than $1,000, and she's counterclaiming for $1,600 for a variety of things. How did you find Miss Monaco?
We met about 4 years ago. We lived in the same area. Our children went to school together.
This is her son?
Yes.
So the kids were friendly?
Correct.
Okay.
So when the time came, Marcy, I think, initially spoke with the defendant about staying with her. They'd always gotten along well together. We'd always gotten along well together. I met with Vicki. We talked about it. We agreed on $50 a week for housing and food. She indicated that was more than enough. My wife and I would pay for all other expenses, schooling, education, transportation, medical, whatever else needed. That was only for food and housing. After the 2-week period, things weren't working out. Marcy had to go to residence, which is part of the EDIP program that she's in through the juvenile justice system. So when it was time to come back, the defendant was in the arrangements of moving her household, looking for a new place to live. She said at the time that the reason for that was she had an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, trying to get away from him, needed some front money to get on with her life. So we were willing to advance her the $1,000 so that she could get a head start, get out of there and all that. The 2 weeks that Marcy was there, we'd already paid her that $100 for. We were even at that point in time.
So you'd already given her the $100 for the 2 weeks, and
That
this was
is correct.
$1,000, an advance of
Was an
$1,000.
advance for, after she got moved into the new home, everything was settled there. She was going to let us know when that was. We were going to get Marcy moved back over there and start life as we hoped it would be a good situation. And then we never heard from her.
Now, they paid you the $100 pursuant to agreement, $50 a week for the time that Marcy was with you, and they advanced you $1,000. Why shouldn't they get it back?
Your Honor, they did not give me $100. And the $1,000 that he did give me that I received was for first, last, and security to move into a home. So Tom and Barbara have not given me anything towards taking care of Marcy.
Just 1 second. How many people moved into your new home?
Well, there was myself, my son Marco, and my boyfriend. He would come and go.
Well, then why in the world would they? You have 2 adults and your child. Why in the world are they responsible for your first, last, and security?
They're not responsible for all of it.
So why don't you give them their $1,000 back?
Your Honor, they were going to pay for half of it.
What?
It cost $2,700 to move in.
Shh, listen to me. Why would they pay anything towards your moving in to a new residence with yourself, a very tall, able-bodied boyfriend who wears a lot of gold jewelry, and your 13-year-old son? Miss Monaco, you explain that to me.
Marcy was with me in the home.
So what?
Well, he agreed to pay and help me in a better home, which he states right in here.
Well, you show me where he agreed to pay for
well, I can show
first,
you where...
last, and security.
No, it's not stated like that. It's stated for a better home.
Let me see it. This says, after a week of negotiating, we met at Wachovia Bank on 5504 and signed a contract for a prepayment of child care for our daughter so the defendant could move into a better home. So what he's saying here is he agreed to give you $1,000 advance because you needed cash to move into this new home, and that money would be offset for the $50 a week that he had agreed to give you for the support of his daughter. You get it? That's what this says, if that's what you're showing me. Don't go like this. That's what it says. Now, you have a contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it, please?
We also have a copy of the $100 check.
No,
Oh, we didn't have that? Oh.
This says, Vicky's previous boyfriend, that's him, Ramon, shall be excluded from contact with Vicky or her family by means of a restraining order while Marcy is in her custody. That's what you signed. If Marcy is away from Vicky's custody or residence for any reason for periods of a week or more, the balance of the child care prepayment must be returned to the Farrells at the rate of $50 a week. Don't you read?
Yes, I do.
Well, explain that to me.
I'm trying to explain to you, Your Honor, that $1,000 was for a better home.
Listen to me.
Okay.
That's not what this says. It's signed, it's notarized by a notary public. That's not what your contract says.
Is it my housing part of child care? Wouldn't my housing be part of child care?
Just a minute. Doesn't she understand the rules? The rules are I ask the questions, you answer the questions.
Okay.
Madam, you signed it. So you must know more about Ramon than I do.
At that time, I was under a lot of pressure, and I knew that I wasn't going to put a restraining order. I don't believe it was so mandatory that that be done at that time because Marcy was in the home with Ramon 3 weeks prior to Tom and I even sitting down and discussing this.
Why did you sign this agreement? So, you have to give them back their $1,000. And in addition, you have a counterclaim for a whole bunch of nonsense that she did damage to your stove. You want moving costs because you moved with the lovely Ramon into a house and that they should pay for it. You want a whole bunch of things. Let me suggest this to you. Get a job. And so should Ramon. Pay your own bills, pay your own expenses, take care of your own selves, take care of your own children. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Goodbye and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Step out.
We do appreciate what she initially tried to do.
I thought Judge Judy was fair.
Well, I think the contract said it all.
The fact that it was $50, only $50 a week was definitely not enough.
That was the arrangement that she brought to us.
Ramon was the one that took Marcy to school. Ramon was the one that picked her friends up.
He was abusive, and she needed to get rid of him.
He was there for Marcy. There was an abusive relationship, in my opinion, without any doubt. I care about Marcy. I still do, and I wish her the best. I hope the best for her, and I hope she stays alive.
All parties in the matter of Ng versus Riley. Step forward, please.
Eye care professional Monica Ng is suing her one-time golf partner, technical consultant Steve Riley, for medical and dental bills. Monica says she was hit in the face by Steve's golf ball.
Missing, according to your complaint, you were playing golf and you were in a foursome?
Yes.
And Mr. Riley was in your foursome?
Yes.
And you got hit with a golf ball that he sliced. You want him to pay for all of your medical bills, you had dental problems, et cetera, et cetera. And Mr. Riley says, sometimes happens when you play golf. Not every shot's a perfect shot. It's part of the risk you assume when you play the game. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When did this happen, Miss Ng?
On January 31st at the Lakewood Country Club.
And how long have you been playing golf with Mr. Riley?
I've never played with him before.
So you were teamed up that day?
By the starter at the country club.
What hole were you playing when this incident happened?
The 9th hole.
And who teed off first?
The guys teed off first, and then I teed off last because I tee off from the ladies' tees.
After you teed off, everyone left the tee, is that right?
Yes, we all walked to our balls.
And was your ball in front of Mr. Riley's ball?
It was horizontal, diagonal to his ball.
And he shot first?
Yes.
And you were watching him?
Yes, I was watching him the whole time.
Why didn't you stand behind where he was?
For slow play, any reasonable experienced golfer would walk to their ball so that you don't delay play, because slow play is the #1 problem with golfing.
No, the #1 problem with golfing is getting hit with a golf ball. So when I was reading your complaint, and I've been out on a golf course, although I am not a proficient golfer, since I don't know who I'm playing with, as you didn't know who you were playing with, and you're not sure of their skill, I wouldn't get into a position where you were anywhere in harm's way. I would stand well behind that person.
I felt I was not standing in a location where I was in harm's way.
But you were, right? Because you didn't play golf with him before. You didn't know whether he was a good player or a bad player, whether he sliced, whether he was straight, whatever. But you don't think that you have any responsibility to worry about yourself?
Yes, I have the responsibility to worry about myself, but I was standing in a location next to my ball. I was watching him the whole time.
You think he aimed at you?
No, he did not aim at me. It was an accident, but still, he's liable for any damages or injury caused by his actions, as stated in the golf course rules at the Lakewood Country Club.
Well, I'll take a look at the rules of the Lakewood Country Club and see what they say.
Safety practices.
Let me see what the safety practices are. Yeah, well, this says that any person entering or playing on the golf course assumes full responsibility for his or her personal safety. That's you. And property. Players are liable for any accident, injury, and or property damage caused by their actions. Well, you're saying that his actions caused you to be injured.
Correct.
I'm saying your actions caused you to be injured. Miss A, my dear, when you play golf, there's a golf ball. That golf ball doesn't always go where it's supposed to go. Have you watched professionals play golf?
Yes.
Have you seen professionals sometimes slice their ball and it goes into a gallery?
Yes.
You think that they're liable if their ball hits somebody? They're not. Players not liable. That's what the game is about. Somebody hits a very hard ball. Sometimes it goes where it's supposed to go. Sometimes it doesn't go where it's supposed to go. If it always went where it was supposed to go, nobody would watch the game.
We have a verbal agreement. After the injury, he was very apologetic for hitting me.
Yes.
And he gave me a cellular number so I can contact him so that I can get his home address to mail him the medical expenses.
Did you say that you would cover the medical expenses, Mr. Riley?
What I said was that if she wanted to go to the emergency room right then, I would help her with expenses. I did not say I would cover a week off of work. I did not say...
Absolutely not.
Right.
You're not responsible for a week
Right.
off from work. You're not responsible for her pain and suffering. You're not responsible for any of that.
Right.
So did you give him the medical bill from the emergency room?
I had not received it yet when I wrote him that certified letter.
Fine. What was your bill from the emergency room? $602 with the emergency bills. Is that right, sir? Now that you agreed to pay, according to you.
Yes.
Fine. Anything else?
Yes. A few months later, I noticed that the back of my tooth was swollen, and I went to the dentist, and that's when they told me that I have ligament damage due to trauma.
Could be. That's not what he agreed to pay for. He agreed to pay for your emergency room bills. But for the fact that he agreed to pay for the emergency room bills, he would not be responsible. You assumed the risk when you got on the golf course of whatever happens when you play golf, unless, of course, he picked up his club and flung the club in anger, or if he hit you with his club, or if he ran you over with a golf cart. That you don't assume the risk, but you do assume the risk that somebody may not hit the ball straight, so you have to make sure that you don't put yourself in harm's way. And if being in a position where you were a little bit of a slow player is more important than keeping yourself out of harm's way, that's a choice that you make. He can't guarantee where his golf ball's going to go. If he could, he'd be Tiger Woods' partner, right?
Absolutely.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $602. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I think the judge made a knowledgeable decision.
I saw him hit his ball, and it came right directly at me. I dodged, but not fast enough.
Fortunately, it was a glancing blow and not frontal.
It was a horrible incident. I want to forget about it.
I did agree to pay for the emergency room costs, and that's fair.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Glenn versus Kelly. Step forward.
23-year-old hospital administrator Megan Glenn is suing her former friend, 25-year-old bartender Megan Kelly, for damaging the transmission on her car. Megan says her drunken friend put the car into reverse while it was in motion.
Miss Glynn, you and Miss Kelly used to be friends, and it is your complaint that you were giving her a ride home because she had too much to drink, and an incident happened in the car, and she took the shift on your car and threw it and damaged your transmission. You had to have the transmission fixed. You want her to pay for that. In her defense, she says that she did not damage your transmission. All she did was put it in neutral. So, when did this happen?
October 18th, 2003.
Where were you?
We had been at her parents' house.
Doing what?
Hanging out.
Had you had anything to drink when you were there?
I think I had 2 or 3 beers to drink that evening.
What about Miss Kelly?
Yes.
You'd been drinking too?
We both had been.
How did you get to her parents' house?
I drove my car to her parents' house.
And Miss Kelly, how did you get to your
I
parents'
drove my car
house?
as well.
Why didn't you drive home?
My parents didn't think that I should, so I rode home with Megan.
Your parents felt that you had had too much to drink?
Yes.
At that point, did you argue with your parents when you
I
were
did.
ready to go home?
I did.
Okay. What happened?
We were on the way to her apartment, and she wanted to go to the bar that her boyfriend was working at so that she could get her keys to go. She was going to take a taxi back to her parents' home and get her car and drive it to her apartment.
And you said?
I told her no, that I was going to take her home. She got very upset, and I was going about 35 miles an hour, and she put my car, and it hit reverse, almost went into park, but not quite. The car came to an abrupt halt, and I pulled over to the side of the road. I yelled at her to get out of the car. She did, and then I went to put my car into reverse, and it was not functioning at all whatsoever, so I yelled at her to get back in the car, and she did, and we drove home from there.
You drove her to her house?
To her parents' house.
Can I see the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Miss Kelly, your version.
She had said that she would drive me up to my boyfriend's work to get my spare set, and that we would actually go back to my parents' house, and I would just drive my car home. And then she changed her mind and decided that we were just going to go back to my apartment, and I said, well, if that's the
When
case...
did she change her mind?
We'd been in the car about 10 minutes.
You think she was concerned about you?
It's possible.
Go ahead.
I know I shouldn't mess with a vehicle in motion, but I put the car in neutral. You could even hear the engine rev like it was in neutral. It did not come to an abrupt halt. So then she went and went to put it back in gear, and that could have caused the damage, because I know, a car that's in drive can't go to park or reverse. There's safety features in the car. So from neutral, it could go into pretty much any gear, but from drive, I just bumped it back into neutral, and then she freaked out, jammed it back in gear, and then she stopped the car and told me to get out.
So whose fault do you think it is that her transmission was ruined that evening?
I don't think it was my fault. From drive to neutral.
Oh, I'm asking you, whose fault do you think it was?
I guess it's Megan's fault.
Your fault. Let's say I believe you that what you did was you were drunk and you put your hands on her car and you put the car into neutral while she was driving. But for the fact that you did that, she wouldn't have tried to put a car into a different gear, right?
True.
So you have to pay for it. That's what happens when girls get drunk. They do stupid things. Boys do stupid things when they get drunk too. But it always is absolutely amazing to me that girls who are supposed to know better will drink to a point where they lose control of their thinking process and they act like idiots.
Okay.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,774.22. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. That's $1.
My parents asked me to take her home because she had been drinking too much, and I hadn't.
It's my car, I was ready to go home. I thought that was fine to drive.
She was definitely intoxicated, just very loud and angry.
I don't really feel like I was fully responsible, but, I guess what the judge says goes.
3-3, Broussard Farrell versus Stigney. All parties, please step forward.
Tammy Broussard and Catherine Fierro are suing 21-year-old Alicia Stigney for travel vouchers and harassment.
Whose son was it who was living with the defendant?
My son.
Broad strokes, what I get from this. Is that your son?
Yes, ma'am.
Your son became involved, according to you, with the defendant. She has one child with your son and one child with someone else.
Yes, ma'am.
What I gather, there was a time that everybody was happy living together, and I believe it was your brother who was getting married in Las Vegas.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendant at that time was put in charge of ordering the plane tickets for everyone to go. But the defendant was told to use someone else's credit card. And who was that?
That's Catherine Fierro's.
That was Miss Fierro.
Yes.
Miss Fierro is whom?
I am the fiancée to her brother.
In any event, the wedding did not come off as planned in Las Vegas. parties did not use the flight tickets that you had booked with someone else's credit card.
Correct.
And you were given travel vouchers. And that's what they're suing for. They want their travel vouchers. That's it. So I just have a few questions. It's not a very difficult case. When you booked the flights for everyone, how many tickets did you book?
It was myself, my 4-year-old. The infant was a lap, so she would not count.
And your boyfriend?
At the time, yes. Roman.
Yes.
And then it was also Tammy Broussard, her daughter, and that was all.
Whose credit card did you pay for those tickets with?
It was Kat's.
That's you?
Yes.
And did you pay for those tickets?
They were put on my credit card. Yes, they were, Your Honor.
Did you, in fact, pay for them, is my question.
Yes.
I'd like to see proof that you paid for their flights. And if you have the following month's bill as well, did you ever receive a credit for those flights?
No, I did not. I
On
wasn't
your
aware
credit-
what happened until I asked the son, the flight, the airline, to send me this.
I'd like to see it.
There you go.
Because it's still on your credit card.
Yes.
Okay, so you received vouchers, according to this, that totaled little over $1,000.
Yes.
What did you do with them?
I did use them.
Just a second. You didn't pay for the tickets.
Correct.
So my question is, why didn't you turn the vouchers over to the people who actually paid for the tickets? You booked the tickets but didn't pay for them. Wedding got canceled because of COVID.
Tammy Broussard and Catherine Fierro claim 21-year-old Alicia Stigney owes for travel vouchers and harassment.
Now, did you discuss the vouchers with her?
I did not meet her until, I believe, early February when we left Las Vegas to go to Minnesota. And shortly after meeting her the day that we got there, she called my fiance, asked if we could watch the baby.
No.
But we did have a discussion about it, a slight one.
Only a discussion with you. I don't want to hear about any conversation.
Well, I did bring it up.
Well,
to
I'd
her.
like you to tell me what the discussion was.
When we came to watch her baby for the first time, she went to show me the baby's room where the diapers were, where the wipes are, and she was running around looking for wipes. And I said, I don't want to seem rude, but you do have the vouchers, correct, for the wedding. They were specifically meant for my wedding. And she said she didn't really have time to talk about it, that she was going out for the weekend to Rochester to go out and have fun with her. So she just left very quickly. Then we watched the baby a second time, and I decided to leave a little bit early to get to the house to watch the baby. And when we arrived, she was out the door. So she did not want to talk about it.
That's sort of speculation.
Yes.
I don't understand what the issue is. She paid for the tickets. You did not, but you used the vouchers.
I did.
Well, then she's entitled to be compensated for what she paid.
Your Honor, she also posted on Facebook trying to sell the tickets.
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is not rocket science. Am I missing something here? You booked the tickets but didn't pay for them. The wedding got canceled because of COVID. You got vouchers for what she paid for and you used them without any agreement. What is the issue here? Am I missing something?
I don't think so.
Would you tell me?
Yes. So back last year, I have the agreement. It was sometime, I think June or July. Tammy moved to Minnesota, or to Austin.
Don't go off on a tangent. Listen to me.
Her apartment is in my name because she couldn't put it in her name.
Okay, and?
So they said, because later in February, Kat had now moved into Tammy's apartment with Tammy that is in my name.
Okay.
So they, as a thank you, they had said that they did not want the vouchers back, that I could use them. They also said that they would not able to use them before they expired in October of this year.
That is not true, Your Honor.
What do you mean they said? Those are two people.
Yes, Tammy and Kat. I had ran into Kat at Walmart sometime late March, I think it was, after me and the Romaine had broke up.
Whatever his name is, Romaine. Romaine and I broke up.
Yes.
I'm still trying to figure out why you didn't give her the vouchers when you got them.
We were still together, me and Romaine. We were planning on taking a trip this year.
What difference does it make? Were you supposed to pay for the tickets to Vegas?
No.
Was that your agreement, that somebody else was going to pay for them?
They agreed that they'd pay for them, yes.
Is that right?
To come to the wedding, not to go anywhere else, just
to come to the wedding, but the wedding was canceled.
Yes. Correct. And we did not speak at Walmart about anything about those.
What I have here are two charges, one for $320 and one for $538. Is that what you spent on the tickets?
Yes. And ma'am, I have something from June 18th on Facebook where she was trying to sell them on Facebook. And I had...
I actually, Miss Broussard, don't understand why you're here.
I'm here because there's also a harassment. We have a police report regarding that.
Okay.
As well.
Okay, so with regard to your claim, she owes you $858 for the tickets.
Yes.
So that judgment is taken care of. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
The other part of the claim is for harassment. Do you want to tell me when this harassment started? I assume it was after your son and the defendant terminated their relationship. And if you indicated that you had a police report, I'd like to look at it.
Yes, ma'am. Here is the police report. And actually, the harassment had started.
Just 1 second. As far as this police report you gave me, the only thing that's complained about here, really from your end, initially, was the fact that your son's tax money was put in her bank account by mistake.
It was something entirely different because he doesn't have the evidence that he needs with that.
I don't care. I'm just telling you what the document is that you handed me as evidence of harassment. And the document that you handed me as evidence of harassment, the focal point of it is last week his tax return got deposited. Alicia withdrew all the money from the account, and this included $1,500 from the tax return and $1,000 that was in the account. That was the crux of your complaint against her. Well, that's not harassment.
Well, the harassment had started on April 27th, which is like a month after those two had broken up. It was a really nasty thing. I don't know, like it says in there, I don't know if it's coincidental, but she sped through a red or a yellow light, almost hit me once. Her boyfriend had been a total nuisance in my parking lot, blowing the horn.
Listen to me very carefully. If you feel as if you are the subject of harassment, file for a protective order. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. The defendant owes your co-plaintiff $858. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I was very nice to them, and they just disregarded all of that.
She's very upset because my son no longer dates her.
There was drugs involved where she couldn't get her apartment of her own.
I pay my own rent, I pay my own bills. I just have bad credit, and it's not even a drug-related thing.
I was nice and put their apartment in my name, and that didn't matter to them.
She's a thief. I mean, those tickets were meant for my wedding, and she used them for something else. It doesn't matter if you're nice or not. You give it back.
I wish they were all that simple.
Yeah, I mean, from reading the papers, I could tell there was some more conflict than I think we got into. But none of that underlying conflict between any of the parties had anything to do with the facts of the case. That she used someone else's credit card, she received a benefit that she did not pay for.
Please step forward.
Ryan Hastings is suing his former roommates, Peyton Kammer, for security deposits, personal belongings, and filing a false restraining order.
Mr. Hastings, you and the defendant were roommates? I'm not quite understanding.
Yes, correct.
Clearly, whether you were roommates or in a relationship. What was it?
It was just roommates.
When did you start to be roommates?
In September of 2020.
Did you know each other before?
Yes.
How?
We were just friends that met at a party and hung out often.
Starting when?
That was in December of 2019.
And what made you decide to room together?
We were both looking for a place to live, so since we both needed that, we found this apartment together.
2 bedrooms?
Correct.
And you moved in with animals,
Correct.
I understand from the complaint.
Correct.
Cats?
Yes.
How many?
I had 2.
I had 2.
I didn't ask you anything yet. You had 2. And Miss Kammer had 2. Any other animals?
No.
So you started to live together during COVID?
Correct.
Were you working?
Yes.
Was Miss Kammer working?
Yes.
What was the rent on the apartment?
It was $13.65.
And you each paid half?
Correct.
So far, correct? Was everything okay in 2020? September, October, November, December?
As far as rent?
No, as far as the living arrangement.
Oh, in 2020, yeah, we just had many squabbles, but overall, we were just fine.
I'm going to ask you the same question. In 2020, everything okay?
No.
What happened in 2020?
It was emotional warfare since I moved in with him. There was arguments with everything, even simple things like cleaning the dishes, just nonstop. I was terrified of him living with him. I couldn't bring anything up without it being an argument.
Okay, so prior to moving in with Mr. Hastings, where did you live?
With my parents.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Is this the first time you had an apartment?
Yes.
And how far away were your parents from this apartment?
Probably like 10 minutes.
If you were terrified, you should have moved home.
I wasn't allowed to.
You weren't allowed to because?
Because I wasn't allowed to live with my dad and stepmom because they moved into a 55 and over neighborhood.
When?
They...
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
They moved in a little after I moved into my apartment. I moved into my apartment to prepare for them moving out.
I just don't want to hear drama. If you had fights over who's going to clean the dishes, I don't want to hear terrified, unless you're terrified. And if you're terrified and you're 21 years old, you go back to where you came from, to your parents' house. If you're terrified, may not have liked it, but that's just kid drama. So, squabbles in 2020. Your lawsuit says that she disposed of your belongings. She filed a restraining order.
Yes.
As a result of the restraining order, you were evicted from the apartment.
Yes.
It was a false restraining order. You hired a lawyer to appeal the finding of the judge.
Yes.
That you had harassed her because this restraining order was based on harassment.
Yes.
May I see a copy of it, please?
I have a copy of the restraining order.
Of the order or what it was based on?
It said what it has the whole thing. It says what it was based on.
Yeah, I see what she has. It doesn't look like it was what it was based on. You do a write-up of what it was based on.
On the front page, in a little box, it has a little description of what happened.
Okay. So the judge who heard this case, and I'm assuming everything in this write-up is true. On the above date, which was the 7th of September 2021, on the above date and time, defendant and the plaintiff engaged in a verbal argument over household chores. The defendant then made comments to the plaintiff that he would go crazy on her and raised his fist. The defendant stated this multiple times and started shaking in anger, causing the plaintiff to be in fear for her life. And you had a hearing on this?
Yes.
You had a hearing on this? You told this to a judge?
Yes.
Yes.
I want you to tell me what you told the judge, or did you tell the judge anything?
I told the judge that I was raising my voice, but I was standing a good amount of distance away from her at the time, and that I was shaking because I wasn't being listened to, and that was it. There was no physical interaction there, only verbal interaction.
Did the judge say to you, how would you describe shaking in anger because you weren't being listened to?
I was shaking just because I was angry. I was just trying to keep my composure.
Well, that would frighten me.
Ryan Hastings claims his former roommate, Peyton Kammer, owes for a security deposit and personal belongings. Peyton is countersuing for rent and emotional distress.
Now, tell me, did the judge say to you, how would you describe shaking in anger because you weren't being listened to?
Can you repeat that question?
I don't know how you were shaking. You mean you...
I was shaking as in, like, I was shaking just because I was angry. I wasn't being listened to. I was trying to keep my composure, so I was just shaking.
Well, that would frighten me. Actually, I don't know whether I'd put you out of your house, but that would frighten me. Mr. Hastings, where are you living now?
I just moved into a new apartment.
With whom?
Myself.
Better?
Yes, and my cats.
Perfect. Yourself and your cats. Great. No, I'm going to tell you, Mr. Hastings, if that happened to me with a man who was larger than I was, that might frighten me if he appeared out of control. So I'm dismissing that part of your complaint, which seeks damages for a false restraining order.
Okay.
What you actually just testified to me, and I took everything that she said in her complaint against you. I didn't even have to ask her. I wanted to know what you told the judge.
Of course.
Then it was a reasonable issuing of a protective order, just to make sure that it appeared to me what you were testifying to is that she couldn't tell the difference whether you were composing yourself or whether you were out of control. Okay, so it was...
May I interject and just say that the restraining order was repealed and remanded, saying that the court did not find sufficient evidence to impose the order. And
whether it was or not, I don't care what... I'm not sitting as an appellate court.
Okay.
I'm sitting as a trier of fact for the first time in your civil action. And what you told me, in my judgment, was sufficient for a judge to say, you know, I don't want to preside over an assault case or a homicide case. This guy says he was shaking. She says he was shaking in anger. You say I was shaking to try to maintain my composure. Well, I'm not going to worry about them. Let him go find someplace else to live, which is what he did. So I think that that's reasonable. Money owed for return of security deposit. Now, he was put out of the apartment. He put in security deposit.
Correct.
And he was put out of the apartment. How much security deposit did he put in?
$682.
Are you still living in the apartment?
I am.
Okay. When he moved out of the apartment as a result of this restraining order, was there any damage in the apartment that he caused?
No.
Then you have to give him back his $682, because any damage that would have resulted since he moved out would be your damage, okay? That's fair enough. $682, that's your security deposit, sir. Return of belongings. Okay, so when you were told that you had to vacate the apartment, tell me what belongings you left in the apartment which you think she still has, which belong to you.
I do not believe she has anything of mine left in that apartment.
Well, what do you think she owes you for?
I am seeking the money for those items because they were thrown away.
What items?
So I had a bed.
Just a second. Yeah. You had a bed and there was a major flea problem in the apartment as a result of your cats.
Correct.
Okay, she threw away the bed. What else?
Okay, there was a Nintendo Switch.
Do you know what that is?
Nintendo Switch? I never found that. I believe he took that the night with him.
Okay, she didn't have it. She didn't throw it away. What else?
I also had a hookah that was in there.
What, a hookah?
Yeah.
Do you have his hookah?
No.
Go. What's next? Okay, if you have to think about it that hard.
I'm sorry.
Sir, we're finished. She owes you back your security deposit.
Okay.
That's $682. You have a counterclaim. Most of it is nonsense. You counterclaim for emotional distress. Forget that. Only one emotionally distressed usually in this room is me. Money owed for the month's rent, for a final month's rent. What is that?
He didn't pay the month of September. He was late on it.
The month of September.
But that would have been the $682.
Was he there in September?
September 1st would have been the day that the money was due.
No, when did he vacate the apartment as a result of your restraining order?
September 7th, when the night of the mistake, but he was late on rent often.
$682, that's what he gets.
Yes.
As he gets a security deposit back. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't really disagree with anything. Everything went perfectly the way I would have hoped it went.
I'm glad I got my security deposit back, but I could have definitely been compensated for the items that I lost.
I mean, he got a little money out of it, but way less than he thought he would. It's a good day.
Sometimes I can get anxious, but I would not hurt anybody physically.
I hope he gets some help.
Me and my cats are the best trio.
You know, I remember from a very early period in my life when I started college that I wasn't really good at having a roommate.
I think you must have passed that on to me.
I did, especially one that you don't love. You know, it's hard enough to live with somebody that you love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get irritated. You know, she said they fought over dishes and not doing the dishes. Well, you know, you've lived with us, so, you know, I have that argument all the time. But I love him.
Yeah.
It's very hard to deal with somebody schmutz that you don't love.
Got to be careful and pick someone you really think and cross your fingers and toes.
Actually, Sarah, I don't think you should pick anybody. I think that what you should do, if you can, is live in a shoebox by yourself, if that's all you can afford. Yeah. You know how many roommate cases we've done just in the last couple of years?
All with stress and aggravation intertwined immensely.
Immensely, and that's without romance involved. Oh, yeah. I mean, this young man, who looks like a perfectly reasonable young man and very honest, said he told the judge that he was shaking. I said, well, describe to me what you were doing. And he shook. And
I would say
that's
a
crazy.
little out there.
She was getting under his skin. There's no question she was getting under his skin.
Middle of COVID, everyone's inside.
You could tell she was getting under his skin. She was terrified. You know, she's 21 years old. Yeah, a little dramatic.
Levi Shaw is suing his parents, Davery and Nathan Celestine, for the repair costs of an 18-wheeler truck.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
How are you?
Case number 2032, Shaw versus Celestine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Shaw, these are your parents, is that right?
Yes, they are.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Just the very broad framework of this case, you're suing your parents for money that you put into a truck that belongs to them.
Correct.
And they are counterclaiming for money that they say you owe them for a balance of a dog they purchased for you. The truck that you fixed belonged to your parents.
Yes, the agreement was...
The truck that you fixed belonged to your parents. And what I gather is that you would come into some money. Is not an answer.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And when did you come into that money?
I never came into any money from them after I fixed
Not
the
from
truck.
them. I didn't say from them, that you came into some money. Is not an answer.
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. I came into some
So I
money
want
in
you
October.
to... In October, you were not employed.
I was employed.
By whom?
Trucking.
Is that their company?
No, I was working with them and their brother.
So you were working with the family?
Yes.
Okay. That was in October.
Yes,
October
ma'am.
of 2021. It's not an answer.
I mean, yes,
is
ma'am.
an answer.
I'm sorry.
And how much did you come into?
About $10,000 for the month of September and October.
And then your father said to you, I assume, you should take some of that money and buy a 16-wheeler truck so that you...
No, ma'am.
Well, how did that happen, sir, that you got possession of your parents' truck?
So
Did you try to buy a truck on your own?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay,
And
in
that
what
deal
month?
failed.
Just a second. In what month did you try to buy a truck for yourself?
January.
January of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And tried to buy a truck so that you could have your own truck for long hauling and business.
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to a dealer and you found the truck that you liked, but you didn't qualify for financing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how much is a new truck?
That truck, it wasn't new. It was a 2015, and they priced it at $60,000.
60.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told your parents about that?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
There was a discussion that they had an older truck that wasn't running.
It needed minor work.
It needed...
was told to me.
Okay, so they said to you it needs minor work. Was it running?
It was running, but the diamond seal was cracked, so eventually the truck was just going to break down completely.
Okay, so you took that truck with the understanding that you were going to repair the truck, and then what?
To make money. But once...
So you would repair the truck and then use it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would keep most of the profits from using that truck? I mean, I'm trying to understand what the agreement was.
My dad, Nathan, told me that the truck was only going to be worth $4,000 to fix, which was a diamond seal. It needs some bushings. It needs something for the exhaust pipe. And I was like, okay. But when the dude kept calling me for the truck, and he was like, okay, this needs to be done.
But you took the truck into a mechanic?
Yes, ma'am.
And did they give you an estimate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before or after they did the work?
They gave me one before, but I don't have that estimate, but I have the one for after.
You mean after they completed the work, they sent you a bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's not an estimate. An estimate, sir, is when you go in and say, here is a truck. I want you to give me an estimate of what it is to have it fixed. And they give you an estimate, and then you determine whether or not you want them to do any or all of that work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would never bring a truck into any mechanic or to any dealership mechanic and say, fix it.
When they was calling me, telling me additional problems that was wrong, I would call them, which I have my phone records that show that I was also calling them once the dealership called me to fix the truck.
Well,
because some
just a
stuff
second.
on the truck wasn't able, like it needed a new gear, it needed new transmission was messed up on the truck.
Just
which
a second. All I want is what you're telling me, that your father told you to go ahead and fix those things each time you got a call?
Yes.
Okay, so you would call him and your father would not say to you, well, how much is that to fix?
Well, yeah, he was, but I had already had a settled amount that I told him that I was willing to spend, which was $10,000.
Well, did you spend $10,000?
The truck was actually over $10,000.
I understand to fix it, but you actually spent
$10,000.
You actually spent the $10,000.
$10,900 to be exact.
To fix the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think the truck was $13,000 to fix.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid the additional $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the truck is running.
Yes, ma'am, it's running. It was running before, Your Honor.
But it's running now better because
ma'am.
there are...
Yes, ma'am.
Because
using it.
Just a second. I can only hear from one of you. He said the truck is in use. You said no.
It's not used. Or is the truck?
No, Your Honor, I misunderstood what you said. I thought you was talking about the repair. You saying is the truck operable now? Yes, it's operable, but it's not on the road.
It's not on the road? Who
Yes,
cares
ma'am.
if it's not on the road?
Oh, yes.
The idea was he was supposed to fix the truck and supposed to be able to use the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he able to use the truck?
Yes, he's able to use the truck.
Okay, great. When was the last time he tried to use the truck?
He never tried to use the truck after it was fixed. He said that he no longer wanted to be a part of the deal to give him his money back.
Okay.
I have something. Now, when the truck originally got fixed in February, my dad came into town multiple times. It was one more piece that needed to be fixed, which was the ABS module, which if you get pulled over, they're going to stop you and shut you down completely.
I don't know.
And I told him, hey, we need to get that fixed. He came into town 3 times, and I asked him, hey, is you going to take the truck to the shop? Hey, is you going to take the truck to the shop? He said no. And he's like, well, it don't have any insurance. And it was just a whole bunch of excuses why he couldn't take the truck to the shop.
Whether he can or he can't, he says, and your mother says you're able to use the truck.
But I don't have a CDL, so I'm not able to drive it.
Well, you didn't have that when you took it in anyway, to be fixed.
But I didn't take the truck over there. He drove the truck to the mechanic shop.
Whatever. I don't care who drove it there, but your agreement with him was you tried to buy a new truck. It was much too expensive. Your agreement with your parents was that you would take an older truck of theirs that needed a lot of work, and you took it into a mechanic, and the mechanic was going to fix the truck, make it operable, so that you would have an opportunity to use it and make money.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm asking you, now the truck is fixed to the tune of $13,000. When was the last time that you asked to use the truck that your parents said you can't?
Well, I asked him, can I have his dad take the truck to get the additional piece put on, and he told me no, just to wait till he come into town.
Okay. After the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time.
I'd like to hear what the specific times were.
The specific time was...
Let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is.
Levi Shaw claims his parents, Davery and Nathan Celestine, owe for the repairs of an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents are countersuing for the balance of an English bulldog.
Was the additional piece put on the truck that he's talking about?
No, ma'am, it didn't actually need that addition. It was an ABS modulator, which on that particular model was a 1995 FLD Classic. On that particular model, you don't need that to reset the ABS light. All you need is a sensor that goes in the hub of the wheel.
What I'm asking you is, your son said that you needed this one part. This is your business.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is that one part?
This is a part that I never researched, so I can't tell you that, but according to him...
Perhaps I didn't ask you anything. Perhaps you can tell me.
The part was $900.
That was returned back.
It was never returned because they wouldn't let me return it because it's dealing with wires. So when I asked them, can I return it, they said no. And I had a text where I texted her and I said, hey, they will not let me return this piece.
Return what piece?
The ABS module. They will not let me return it because it's electrical, and they do not accept returns on electric pieces.
So is what you're telling me that you bought this piece for $900?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that it wasn't necessary. You didn't buy it from him.
No, but I don't know if it was necessary, but what the mechanic told me and what
you can't tell me what the mechanic told you.
Well, I'm just saying the mechanic told
No,
me
you
that
can't tell me what the mechanic told you. Well, all I'm telling you, Mr. Shaw, is you had an agreement with your parents to fix a truck and then to be able to use it. And I want to know whether they have ever denied you the right, because that was the contract that you made. You never made a contract with them that you would take a truck to the mechanic and they would pay for the repairs. You never made that contract with them. You want me to say that that was your contract with them. They say the truck is operable now and that you can use it. When do you want to use it?
Well, if they're willing to let me use it, then I want to use it as soon as possible.
Okay, and you can drive the truck?
No, I was going to hire a driver.
Okay, and the truck now is not on the road, is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Now,
That's right.
The truck is not on the road.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Is what you said, but operable.
Yes, it's not operable.
Okay, and after the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, and then be able to work at it so that he's getting some benefit from what he put into the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an agreement?
I wanted to ask...
I'm not looking at you.
Okay.
Did you have a discussion with him about how much of the time he would be able to utilize the truck, or was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear what the specific times
The specific time was...
let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is. I gave him specifically, according to him, about 3 months of when he probably needed it, to get himself together.
No, just a second. You mean he was going to spend $10,000 on fixing the truck and you were going to let him use it for 3 months?
Well,
put your hand down. I'm not talking to you.
Well, as long as he needed it. I'm going to put it that way. As long as he needed the truck.
Okay. So now that's better.
Yes, ma'am.
So that he can use the truck whenever he needs it and he's going to get a driver. I just want to know because we're going to have to memorialize all this in an order. What do you want?
We had a driver. My brother was the driver.
I don't care whether your brother was the driver or not. That was not the agreement that your husband said he made with his son.
Yes, ma'am.
He says he made an agreement with him that if he paid to have it fixed, he could use the truck whenever he wanted to. That's what your father says.
No, that is not true.
Okay, so when did you ask to use the truck?
So in January, when I was getting the truck fixed, they told me $4,000. But as the mechanic kept calling me, adding on stuff, I said, hey, I'm not about to pay all this money, and y'all telling me I can just use it. If I'm about to put all my money into it, I want the truck. And my mom was like, okay, you can do that. Because in January, they didn't make any money.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is what you said to your mother, I'm not going to put in all this money unless the truck belongs to me.
Correct.
Well, that's not unreasonable, Mr. Shaw. I can actually see that. You're spending $10,000 of your money and you want to be able to use the truck. And you want it to be able to not have it on a whim of somebody else.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is this truck?
This truck is exactly 22 years old.
How long have you owned it?
I've owned it since I was 23 years old.
Okay, so you've owned it since it was new.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make a living from it?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Good. Do you have other trucks now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How many others?
Just one other. I'm not no big scale company. I just got one other truck, yes, ma'am.
Can I see the title to the truck, please?
To the truck we're talking about?
Yes.
I don't have that title with me.
Why not?
I was under the impression that I didn't need to bring it.
Okay. And according to you, the truck's not on the road now?
No, ma'am, it's not on the road.
Do you remember having a conversation with your son about, I'm not going to spend all this money unless the truck is mine?
Yes, ma'am, I do remember that conversation.
Do you remember where it took place?
He was driving and I was at home.
So it was over the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Remember what month that was?
January.
January of 2022.
Correct.
Tell me what you said to him and what he said to you.
I told him, I totally understand what you're saying. I said, let me talk to your daddy, and we'll see what we could do, but...
Great. As a parent, that sounds perfectly reasonable. And did you speak to your husband?
Yes, I did.
Did the two of you own the truck?
He owns the truck. It's in his name and Nathan's name.
So you said, okay, that sounds okay, let me talk to your daddy. You have to talk to the owner of the truck, because
Correct.
Now you're seeking to change the agreement. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And after you spoke to your mother, did you have a conversation with your father about the ownership of the truck?
Yes, we did.
And tell me when that was and what was discussed.
It was in January as well, and when I told him that, he said he totally agreed with me that if I put in majority of the money, that I can have the truck.
Okay. I want to tell you certain things sort of ring true to me. If I were a young person and spending all my money for a business, because this is the business that he was going to be in. He was going to hire a driver and he was going to take a certain amount of the profits. I could understand him saying to his parents, who now have a truck that they're not using because it's not on the road, I'm going to spend all my savings, it looks like, because the initial estimate was $4,000, but it kept going up and up and up and up and up. So if I'm going to spend all this, put your hand down. If I'm going to spend all this money, I'd like to own the truck. And in response to that, his mother said, and acknowledges that she said, it sounds right to me, I'm going to speak to your father. And according to you, you spoke to your father, and your father said, sounds okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went ahead and spent the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Put your hand down. This
Your
is not
Honor, I don't
a. This is
understand,
not.
Your Honor.
It's not
I done made over $1 million
fix your
with the
truck.
truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man. How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
Levi Shaw, says his parents, Davery and Nathan Celesti, owe for the costs of repairs to an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents say he never used the truck, and it is still not fixed.
I'd like to see the bills for the truck.
Oh, I have it on my phone.
Well, what is that?
These was the bank statements because at first they was countersuing for insurance as well. So I was showing bank statements where I had sent them money. So that's what these was for. But I have it on my phone, but I don't have it in the statements.
Well, I need it.
Here you go.
Is that the one final invoice?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it.
And it also I have at the bottom where it says it needs the ABS module.
Your Honor, can I see that as well?
Yes. So the entire amount is $13,000.
$13,000 and some change.
And your father paid $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not the correct invoice.
What?
I have the original invoice.
Fine, I'll take a look at yours.
The invoice that was sent to me via, so by their email, which I can pull up their email as well.
And it shows that it's paid on the back.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the same thing as he showed me.
But it has our name on it.
Who cares?
The ones that he showed you, it changed since then.
Well, but let me ask you a question.
No.
Unless I'm missing something.
No.
You're not questioning the fact that he paid $10,000 to fix the truck out of the $13,000 that the truck was. Are you questioning that?
No, I'm not
Okay,
questioning that.
then I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Let's go over this one more time. When your son said to you, you know, if I'm going to spend all this money, I want to own the truck, and your wife had the same conversation with you, right? She said, I got a call from Levi. Levi said if he's going to spend all this money, he really wants the truck, and she actually thought it was okay. And what did you say, sir?
I said that I'm not going to sell you the truck.
Why?
I will let you use the truck.
No, when did you say that?
Because I have other children.
Oh, no, but
And-
your other children didn't put any money into the truck.
No, I know.
No,
what
just a
you're
second.
saying.
Your other children didn't put
I
any
know
money
what
into
you're
the
saying,
truck.
but there's like
Hand down.
He didn't ask me to buy the truck.
Okay.
Your Honor. He asked could he use it.
Just a second.
He was going to sell it to my uncle because when the repairs got done, they actually didn't have enough money because I had $8,000 saved up. They took $4,000 of my $8,000.
That you got
to pay
paid back.
Yes, but they didn't have the money, so when you just
Mr. Shaw,
$4,000
Mr. Shaw,
from me.
I don't expect you to talk to each other. I don't expect you to talk to him.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
It's very easy. I believe that you changed the contract with your son from a contract where he would pay for the repairs, which was supposed to be $4,000, and then you have the use of the truck, to the fact that he was going to spend $10,000, which was all of his money. Put your hand down. I'm not... This 22-year-old truck that you've had since it was new was going to be his. And I am going to craft an order to the Department of Motor Vehicles to reissue a title in the truck to him. Do you understand? He's going to take that order. He's going to get a new registration for the car and a new ownership. Unless you want, put your hand down. This is
Your Honor,
not
I don't
a.
understand
This is not.
that, Your Honor.
It's not.
I don't understand that.
Well,
I got other
just a second.
children. I
Do you
got
want me-
5 other
do you
kids,
want me?
man.
Do you want me to
And
say
he's
it's
spoiled,
slower?
Your Honor.
And I say, what about the $3,500 that we put into it?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
But it wasn't $4,500. It was $3,500.
35. I'm sorry if you didn't hear me well.
Man.
You are absolutely entitled to that. I believe you are entitled to that. He put in 10. That's his truck.
I made, Your Honor, I worked all my life with that truck.
I don't care.
I worked all my.
I don't care. He's not going to spend his $10,000
I care.
on
I done made over $1 million
your
with
truck.
the truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man. How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
I need a break.
That's the judgment. I'm not entertaining your counterclaim. That's the judgment of the
man.
court. You get title to the truck. You can retrieve it as soon as you change the registration of the truck. However, in order to do that, you have to give your parents the $3,500 that they put into the truck. Do you understand?
Yes,
Your Honor,
Good.
what about
We're
this
done.
dog?
We're
that
done.
we
This
paying
court is
for?
adjourned.
We're done.
We
I have
paying
a
for this
question,
dog.
Judge.
We're done.
It's over.
Okay.
We paying for this dog, and he's not giving us nothing.
Let me explain something to you.
It's
The reason, let me explain something to you. The reason that I'm not hearing your counterclaim is because the two of you were disrespectful and didn't listen to me. Oh, yes, you did. That's it. We're done.
All right. My actions of my response to what she was saying is wasn't nothing being disrespectful towards her.
I'm very glad she ruled in my favor.
It was the initial, the thought of giving up my hard-earned possessions.
It was because I did try to work it out before we came to court, and they was like, no, we're not going to pay you nothing.
I never would have thought in a million years to sue my parents, even though they, my parents whooped my butt. But that was just something you had to go through back then.
It saddens me. I'm in disbelief that my parents did that to me. I didn't think that they would do that.
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know his plans. I can't talk that.
If you do business with family, make sure you get contracts.
You know, I sympathize with the plaintiff's position on this because modifications of contracts are supposed to be allowed when there's a change in circumstance. So it's not like he was attempting to change the contract every Friday or for no reason. He thought that it was going to be $4,000. It turned out to be $10,000 to fix the truck. And as such, he wanted a bargain for exchange. That's a lot more money than he initially intended. So that conversation makes sense to me, that conversation between his parents, that I know we had agreed to this, but now with this new information, this is what I'm comfortable with. Is that okay?
I think so. I think that is a common sense interpretation of what happened.
For a truck that cost $60,000 20 years ago, to put in $10,000 to it is not nothing. That's a big investment.
Well, it probably isn't worth more than that. And the condition that it was in before he had it repaired, their position was unreasonable because now they have a fixed truck
that their child paid for. And with the animus between them, it doesn't seem to me as if he's going to get any benefit from the bargain. So the modification of their original oral contract, which I think happens occasionally when circumstances change, as long as both parties agree. And I actually think that both the mother and the father said okay, and then something happened that I don't know about. Don't want to know about.
And I don't want to know about it. But I think it's fair that he had possession of the truck since he paid the majority of it.
Hi, xin chào các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng nhau tô một bức tranh về một chú mèo Hello Kitty nhé. Bây giờ mình sẽ lấy màu vàng để tô bông hoa. Mình sẽ lấy màu cam để tô áo cho Hello Kitty. Mình sẽ lấy màu da để tô cho Hello Kitty. vậy là chúng ta đã hoàn thành xong bức tranh chú mèo Hello Kitty và đây là thành quả ngày hôm nay. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.